Welcome to Yoga How To. Today we're going to talk about the concept of Dāna and Sevā in yoga and how that translates to karma yoga and yoga off the mat and service for others and generosity in general. So we're going to dive into what it means to tithe and how we can effectively practice our yoga off the mat through donating and dedicating our time, talent, and treasures. Let's get into it. Karma yoga, that term that comes from the Bhagavad Gita, the yoga off the mat. It's the yoga of renouncing the fruit of the action and brings to the forefront in our yoga practice this concept of Sevā and Dāna. So Sevā is selfless service. Sevā is doing for others, which is tricky philosophically because when we think about really doing something disconnected from the fruit of the actions, for instance, say I want to do something for somebody else, but if I'm actually doing it for them to serve me, well, we've got to suss out that intention a little bit. Dāna, where we actually get the modern day word donation from, to donate, is one way we can start to look at the idea of Sevā and taking the action of proper yoga, karma yoga, the way that we can practice yoga off the mat, renouncing the fruit of the action, being selfless in our service through the ways in which we're generous. We're going to look at 3 different ways: time, treasure, and talent. I remember way back in the day that a yoga student had came to me after a class one time, and they'd been coming to my class for a while, and they gave me an envelope and it had some money in it, and I was like, oh, this is odd. We're not usually taking tips as yoga teachers. And she said, no, I tithe every month, and this is part of my tithe, is to give it to people who nourish me and give me things. And so oddly enough, at that point in my life, I was pretty ignorant to the idea of tithing. Now, tithing is specifically much more from a biblical origin, but this idea of the extra that you have, taking that and not just hoarding it but giving it to others, is definitely intrinsic to the yogic philosophical principle of santosha and aparigraha, being content with what you have, not hoarding, giving to others when and where you can, especially when you can see it make an impact for others. And this definitely made a huge impact for me. At the time, I was not making a lot of money. The little bit of money she gave me was a big deal, and I'll just never forget it because it actually changed my whole life in terms of the way I started to view this concept of abundance versus scarcity. In yoga, sometimes we call this Lakshmi versus Alakshmi. So ever since then, I always have tried to make goals for my own idea of tithing. Now, in a proper context, tithe comes from the word tenth, which is the meaning of a tenth of your income. But you don't have to just tithe or generate Sevā and Dāna back to people, back to your community through money, because sometimes that's just not practical for people. Let's get some practical tips, though, if money is how you want to donate. So I do want to just say that there are endless amounts of opportunities. If you go out to www.wherecanigivemymoneytosomebody.com, you're never going to get left alone. And in fact, that's one of the things I learned early on, is that as soon as you donate one place, you're never going to stop hearing from them. And I get that. That's the nonprofit racket or gig. Maybe it's not a racket. Sometimes it's a racket. And that's important to distinguish too between, is how much of the money that you're donating actually go towards the cause versus our administrative fees. I've heard some nonprofits out there, I won't name names, that more than 50% of every dollar donated goes towards administrative fees, whereas others, not only are we talking 90% dial and above go to the actual cause, but we also want to look at, when we're thinking about donating our precious treasure through this act of karma yoga, what is the impact? And there is this work of William McCaskill that he is put together with a team of other researchers and scholars out of Cambridge, I believe, maybe Oxford. But if you look up givewell.org, it will break down their top most recommended nonprofit organizations to donate to based off of how much of that dollar goes to actual impact and actually lives saved by impact. So aside from the politics, you can look up to see what these organizations are actually doing with the money, with their time, how many lives it's saving, what kind of impact it's making. There used to be a database on there. I haven't fact-checked this recently, but you could actually plug in a nonprofit and it would show you a rating, a scale. If somebody knows what that is, go ahead and pop it into the comments. If you take a nonprofit, you can look at it and it gives it a grade or a rating for how effective the nonprofit is, for how much of the monies go to certain causes, to the cause, and how much that impact makes in the world. Money is definitely not the only way to practice the subtle art of Sevā and Dāna, your karma yoga off the mat. Time is another great thing. And this is something that sometimes we overthink. Sometimes it's just really something simple, as in spending time with people who are already in your sphere of influence, spending time with family members, spending time with people who you may not even know. Strike up that conversation, be that sounding board for that person on the subway, on the train, in line, at the deli, wherever you're at. If somebody, especially in our culture in America, we don't tend to spend as much time with the elderly. And as you get older, you tend to spend more time alone. I always find that it really makes it a two-way street of satisfaction when, for instance, my neighbor down the street, George, whenever I stop by when I'm walking Pete, just to say hi to him and his wife. And it's created this really wonderful relationship. Another one, too, closer to home, is my dad. As my dad gets older, it's more and more important for me to spend time with him. And it's not about it being me pitting him or a donation or generosity of any sort. It's about quality time. And yeah, I'm doing it for the service of the thing. And in the spirit of karma yoga, you're to renounce the fruit of the action. But the truth is, I still get a lot out of it when I pop over to George's house and make sure that I walk that way and look in the window and say hi when I can, give my dad the call, go over, hang out for no good reason other than just to hang out. So talent is the last one. I want to encourage you all listening to this to practice your karma yoga in ways where you are encouraging people, you are inspiring people, you're educating people in ways that you have a natural gift. Bring your gift to the world. The world needs that more than ever. In this weird dystopian comfort crisis that we live in, and the disparity that causes, this like hyper-normality of the difference between the systems of the world seemingly crumbling around us while our life just marches on status quo. One thing that you can definitely do to make sure that your time is spent well and the relationships are qualitative is that you're giving the best of yourself to other people. And the cool thing is you get to choose how you show up in that space. So for me, I'm a big believer in creative work. I spent many years when I was young creating in the sphere of music with other musicians. For a long time, I did solo work. That was really a good lesson for me to learn my craft better, to really understand what I liked, to not make any compromises, to really get to what it means to be professional and no nonsense. Even though I wasn't making money, I still considered myself a professional at that time because I kept dates with myself, I would schedule things, and I was serious about it. Now, the last 5 years, started collaborating with other people again through music, and that opens up a whole other world of education. You learn things, you teach things, you learn things even better that you teach, and you give people an opportunity to re-inspire you back. That's of course not why you do it, especially in this spirit, again, of renouncing the fruits of your actions, sticking to the code of karma yoga. But the Dāna, the Sevā of working with other people and letting that creative space be a psychologically safe space, a supple space, a space of generosity and generativeness. As far as the position I sit in this chaotic world that we have so little control over everything that we do, that is one thing that we can at least allow ourselves the gift, the freedom of, and the discipline of. There's a lot of neuroscience out there that talks about how when we go into the flow state, we get into that selfless, that effortless, that timeless place, and that unfocused attention gives us a replenishment, not just in the brain, but also the nervous system of the body. Taking time to do things that aren't tethered to results, taking time to do things that are playful, to actually sit in the sandbox of your life to where you don't have to adult, you don't have to look after anybody, you don't have to think about, is this paying my bills? But you can actually just play a little bit. And to do that in relationship, to do that with other people, especially when you can really bring your own personal gifts to that space in a way that is generous, that is a huge gift of your treasure. So in the spirit of karma yoga, this huge concept of the yoga of action, the yoga that we live off the mat, that is encapsulated by this idea karma, pala, tyaga, renouncing the fruit of the action. How do we then really truly practice yoga in a way where we're not attached to what's happening after? And so much of intention and sankalpa can sometimes attract us to the beginning of a yoga practice, but it's really in the doing and the being in the space and finding that synergy between the two where we're really present, where we're disconnected from the past, disconnected from the future. And these ideas of Dāna and Sevā, especially the idea of giving gifts, being generous, giving these gifts of time, talent, and treasure, I think are kind of the modern contemporary edge of what we can be doing as yoga practitioners to be not only practicing yoga in a practical, modern way, but also when we're trying to practice our yoga off the mat, when we're trying to show up in the world as activists, when in the world of environmentalism, social justice, animal rights, whatever is your passion. And hopefully that the yoga awakens something in us that brings a sensitivity and awareness that all these things become a passion for us. You find ways to not have to be a warrior in a way that you're fighting a war against, but you're fighting for something. You're fighting with something. And I just hope that you feel encouraged by listening to this video today to make that extra effort to take some time, to take some of your talent, to maybe gift some of your treasure to make this world a little bit of a better place. Because it comes from that polished gift that yoga creates in us, that ability to see clear, that ability to be better versions of ourselves, that doesn't get siloed and live in a vacuum. We actually go out into the world and make change. We make a difference from there. So, obviously, this topic could be a big rabbit hole, especially for the times we're living in. But comment down below. Tell me what is important for you in terms of in which ways you're giving your time, talent, and treasure right now. Thanks for watching as always. Like, follow, share, subscribe. We appreciate you. Until next time.